Hey everyone, it's Dot, and today we're going to be making a wonderful dessert for the holidays, which you won't be able to get enough of. And the two stars of this dessert, cranberries and the orange, or actually the zest of the orange. We're making an orange cranberry pound cake, and it is very low carb and extremely healthy. So let's get started. The first thing I need to do right now is actually take my eggs out of the water. What I'm doing here is I'm bringing my eggs up to room temperature, and the safest way to do that is to actually put them in warm water for about 5 minutes, and that'll bring them up perfect to room temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and get the eggs out of the water. Next up, I'm going to take my cranberries and chop them in half, or just chop them up coarsely. This is the fun part because they're going to scatter. So you just sort of have to be careful when you're cutting them. Now you know how much I love zesting citrus. Lime, lemon, orange, doesn't matter. Well, I'm doing it again. As you zest your orange, you only want the peel. You don't want the white pith. It's too bitter. Now we're ready to start mixing our wet ingredients, basically. And we're gonna add your butter, and you want your butter at room temperature. That's very important. Next up, your sweetener, your low-carb sweetener of choice. It's up to you. Now I'm gonna blend the butter with the sweetener. Blend in the cream cheese. And again, this is also at room temperature, and I like to do it in chunks. Break up my cream cheese in chunks. Okay, next you want to add in your eggs, your orange extract, your vanilla extract, and your orange zest. And blend everything together. Now we want to take our dry ingredients and mix those together. So I have my almond flour here. I'm using baking powder and regular table salt. I would recommend using a whisk to do this, but since it's in such a small bowl, I'm using a fork. I'm going to slowly add in the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. And to make sure I don't have a whole lot of lumps, I'm going to use a mesh strainer for that. So all I'm going to do is set that on top and just add in, because you can see almond flour really does love to clump. So all I'm going to do is sort of go like this over it. It takes out the large clumps. And see, I got some clumpy stuff here that ain't just going. I'm just going to break it apart. My hands are clean, so it's okay. So I went ahead and I made sure I got my clumps out of this small batch I'm adding in, and I'm going to start mixing this in. Now I'm just going to repeat the process until all of my flour is inside my batter. Finally, you're going to fold in your diced, chopped up cranberries. Before I started, I already went ahead and prepared my loaf pan. I just put in parchment paper on top and I lightly sprayed it with an oil. What you're going to do is add your batter in. Once your batter's in, you want to make sure you smooth it out so it covers the entire pan. You want it to be distributed evenly throughout. Your cake's going to go in the oven on the middle rack, that's important, at 325. And you want to cook it until a toothpick comes out of the center clean, and that'll take about an hour, hour and a half. About the hour point, you definitely want to start watching it. And because you're using almond flour, it tends to cook a lot faster, or at least brown a lot faster. So if you need to, there's nothing wrong with covering it in tinfoil if you feel it's browning too fast. The cake is out of the oven. I'm letting it cool because the glaze can't go on until it cools to begin with. I'm adding a little bit of butter, softened, you want it at room temperature. Cream cheese, again, at room temperature. And we're going to add some powdered sweetener. And I'm using a powdered sweetener that's very similar to the sweetener that I used earlier. It's just in its powdered form. I'm using a monk fruit. This is important. I'm adding basic tap water. I'm going to add a tablespoon at a time because the tap water will determine the consistency of my glaze. So I'm adding 2 tablespoons right now. And now we're going to mix it. All right, I'm gonna mix it a little bit more, but not too much more. It's a little bit tiny lumpy just because I didn't let my cream cheese get quite as room temperature as I would prefer, but that's not a problem. It'll still be tasty. I'm adding some orange extract to this because again, I want that orange flavor. This is an orange cranberry pound cake. If you look at it, it's pretty thick, simply because that's the consistency I would like this time around. You can do a little bit thinner so it literally just icing pours on your cake and it'll run down the sides and have a nice pretty look. You can do that certainly if you prefer. I'm going for something a little bit thicker here. To help the cake cool faster, I'm going to take it out of the pan carefully. Always use your gloves and lift. Now, rather than having this cool to the touch, I want this completely cooled before I add any of my glaze on top. Because I love zest so much, here's another orange. And yes, I'm going to add just a little touch. And this is, it's not needed. You don't need to do this. I'm doing this because if you want to take this to a party and impress your friends, people seem to be impressed with zest on top of a pastry or a cake. So I'm just going to go ahead and lightly zest and add a little bit of orange. Perfect. So let's cut this open. Now this serves 16. So that gives you an idea of how many slices you can make, but I'm going to do something. Oops, see what I told you? I broke my cake. That happens sometimes, but that's okay. This is perfect. I'm going to taste this. Actually, no, I am going to taste that, but I'm going to cut appropriately. Hopefully you can see some cranberry. You can see some, oh, there you go. You got some specks of cranberry in here. I definitely want some cranberry in here. And here it goes. Okay, wow. It tastes really awesome. I'm gonna lick my finger, sorry, but it's just that good. I was a little bit concerned when I first started adding a lot of 2.5 teaspoons of the orange extract, but the truth is, it just gives it a wonderful orangey flavor to it, and it tastes so good. And then also with the amount of sweetener, I tend to go a little shy on the sweetener side. But because I'm adding cranberries, which are extremely tart and have a bite to it, the amount of sweetener that's in the cake is the perfect amount to mellow out the cranberries. Absolutely delicious, lovely orange, lovely cranberry, but also it has the feel of pound cake. It's a little heavy, which pound cake is, but it has that nice moisture, which almond flour tends to have a lot of moisture to it, so you want to be careful with it. Doesn't taste eggy, which is wonderful. Definitely give it a try. I hope you liked the video. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely share with your friends. And until next time, I'll see ya.